tried to kick you where it hurts. You got up, you kept going. That was in there. I think they know the writing's on the wall. Maguire, Senior, back to Maguire. Danny Maguire for Leeds. The young hero to win the grand final,
Hi everybody and welcome to the Lot Pod, the Leeds Rhinos Lot 17A podcast, kindly sponsored by ACD&B, who are a branding and creative design agency based in Farsley, Leeds. They create standout brands, so for any companies out there that need a brand new logo or a brand refresh, just get in touch with ACD&B. Thank you as always to them for sponsoring us, for designing the fanzine. The second issue of the Lot 17A fanzine is available now from the Lot Pod shop. If you just Google Lot Pod, the Lot Pod shop, that first link on Google, that's us. That's the Lot Pod store. Has the badges and the second issue of the fanzine available to buy. Thanks as always to them, ACD&B, for their support. This is, unfortunately, the match review panel for Castleford Scruffs against Leeds Rhinos. Joining me as always, my right-hand man, our amazing stats man.
I'm a stat man.
Freeze.
The intro is back. How are you, Reese?
I'm all right, and that's because I knew one of my sports teams would come through this weekend. I wasn't expecting it to be Leeds United, to be honest.
That's true.
So weirdly, Leeds saved the weekend.
Yeah. Thanks, Leeds United. You actually cheered me up.
Yeah, because I was listening to the Square Ball this morning, and Rob Conlon had been at Cass on Thursday night, and he said, because they were talking about Leeds will normally ruin your weekend, because they can't ruin it next weekend because they're not playing. I was like, oh well, Rhinos are playing. But yeah, we're all right, Tar.
Who's on with us today? A man that we've been behind the scenes. Me and Reese have been trying to get squad number 8, squad number 10.
I think he needs to choose, doesn't he? It was 8 or 10.
He can choose.
He can choose. Well, we'll bring him in an ass then, can't we? Duncan, 8 or 10?
Well, I'm better than Mark, so I'm number 10.
They're going to have a scrap in the car park. Find out who's number 10.
Lot Pod special. We'll get that on a stream. That'll be good.
We've been trying to get Duncan on for quite some time now, so it's about time he made his debut officially for the 2023 season. So the match review panel: Castleford versus Leeds. Duncan, we always start with positives. Are there any positives from this one?
No, none at all.
Not one.
Not one.
Reese?
Nope.
None. That's it then. Thanks for listening, everybody. That's the match review panel for this week. We'll be back to review the Catalans game. No, we're not joking. We're not joking, of course. The only positive I've got down, I've got two, sorry. Harry Newman, more minutes for Harry Newman. And, of course, the amazing Danny Maguire on commentary on Sky. Duncan, do you have any positives to add other than those?
Duncan wasn't lying when he said no.
He's gonna get a bit of a. I imagine people I saw a load of tweets about Fussy. I actually thought he carried well, and he made one grave error which cost us. But I actually thought I thought he's been better than what I've expected this season.
Yeah. I agree.
Other than that, not a right lot.
Reese?
Cam Smith
Yeah.
for me.
Cam,
I felt like Cam
played well.
was the only one that showed leadership and tried to get a hold of the game. You know, it was his. The reason why we scored the only try for us in the game was because he was the one that went, I'm just going to take this forward now.
Yeah.
None of this passing around. He took the opportunity to run forward, and it's a shame we didn't have a bit more of that. But I felt he was the only one that was actually trying to make something happen, and also make it happen constructively as a team, as opposed to on their own, like some of the other team members were. So no, I think Cam would be my highlight. Positive.
He should be captain.
I think we'll talk about that a bit later.
Okay.
We've got a special segment coming up.
Yeah, Andrew's pretty much. I think Andrew in the YouTube comments has been listening to our production meeting. Would you call it, Reese? Before we come on air,
I won't call it meeting. Scramble is probably better.
Our scramble/ramble, because yes, Andrew. Andrew says, if we talk about Leeming for an hour, guys, we don't need to talk about the Cass game. I think the Cass review is going to be about 8 minutes.
Yeah.
The rest of it, we're going to discuss Cruz Leeming and the Catalans. Looking forward to the Catalans game. But you are right, Andrew. We are going to talk more about Cruz Leeming than the Castleford review. Yeah, I thought Cammy played well. Like Reece said, really forced the issue for that try. You know, made something happen, and then Austin supporting him, and then Myler supporting him for that. I thought that was a well-worked try. Do you agree with that, Duncan? So that was a decent try for us?
Yeah, I actually think in the entire game, I thought we played too side to side, too laterally. I thought that was one of the first times that we actually looked to go through the middle of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a really well worked try. It's frustrating as well because we have got a lot of players in the pack that look to offload, and I didn't feel the support was there in general throughout the game. There were guys poking their heads through, looking with an arm free, and no one on the shoulder.
Just on the pack, Duncan, it is obviously your first appearance of 2023. What have you made of the pack of Sam Lissoni?
Sam Lissoni's Joe Vickery, but on a prop shirt. Probably.
Sorry to butt in, but I did say Mark came on to review Hull, Reese. Was it the Hull game?
Yeah.
The
Hull
loss.
Game.
And I said at the time that Mark is a great guest. He's one of our regulars. Is always better after a defeat. He just is. You know, when he was saying that Rowan Smith should grab Caesar by the throat. I mean, that's one of the best reactions I've ever had. I feel the same with Duncan. Do you, Reese?
I do, yeah. I can imagine. He did tell us off air that he can't swear anymore because of George, but I'd be surprised if one word doesn't slip in.
Carry on, Duncan. Sorry.
Well, Lissoni looks like me or Mark would. And I haven't played rugby in 10 years, and Mark hasn't played rugby in about 25 years. So he just looks fat. There's no other way to say it. He's blowing out of his backside after 5 minutes. Every time he comes on the field, our middle just opens up, and there's gaping holes all over the place.
What if I told you, Duncan, that Sam Lissoni had the highest average carry?
Well, he would do, wouldn't he? If he carries the ball once and makes 10 metres, he's going to be all right.
He carried the ball 4 times, to be fair. But he made 45 metres, so he actually got 11 metres per carry, pretty much. But go on, what's your thoughts on the rest of the pack?
I think Smith overcomplicated it. If we've got one hooker in Jared, just run with Jared at hooker for 80 minutes. I think we played into Cass's hands when we had Bentley at 9. But I actually think Bentley only moved at 9 so he could defend for Fat Boy.
That was a weird sight seeing Bentley at 9. It really confused me.
It's just look, hooker's one of them positions for me where it's a specialist position. To pass off the floor but it is a hard skill to master, and I don't think you can just chuck anyone in there. And we were just so slow and predictable in attack, and you need a specialist 9. That's what we were crying out for, and I think, like I said, I think Rowan, he tries to overcomplicate it sometimes, and that can be his undoing. I think Walters had a brilliant game against St Helens, and he should be. We should let him go and back it up against the other sides. Like against Cass the other night, he should have been on the bench. I actually think we're playing quite a dangerous game with Walters because he's in the last year of his contract, and if we mess him around too much, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of suitors out there wanting a 6'7" mountain that can play either back row or prop. So we're going to have to be careful with minutes, because if it were me and I was getting dropped and I was seeing Lasoni running out and not even running, waddling out, I'd be like, "What's going on?"
I don't think we're in any dangerous water with Sam just yet. I know it's like Rowan said, the cap's live and it's a moving thing, but I get the feeling he's enjoying it here. I think Jared O'Connor is his best mate or one of his best mates, but we do need to give him like a 10-year deal as soon as possible. But perhaps that's something we can come on to shortly in the Leeming chat. Just on Lasone and then Duncan. Obviously, one of our imports, one of our quota spots. What do you think Rowan should do with him moving forward to try and improve his performances?
I would genuinely look at sending him out dual reg to give him a kick up the backside.
Really? Already?
Yeah. I'd send him to Bradford. And then through the week he can just run on a treadmill.
Just put him on a treadmill. So do you think that's his issue? Just his conditioning? His
conditioning's dreadful. It is absolutely shocking. Like, he comes on and it doesn't matter whether if he takes a carry, he's blowing straight away. No matter what his first involvement is, if it looks like he's been signed so we can get his missus over.
It's no bad thing. She is an awesome player.
She is a very, very good player, but that's what it looks like.
Do you think eventually, Reese, we will get to see a real quality import? Do you think there's a quality import just waiting to burst out of Sam Lasone?
I think so. I think it's too early to judge, and I thought his impact at the Wakefield game was great.
Yeah, he did some good stuff. I agree. Yeah,
but it was a short stint. He's not coming on until the second half, isn't it? At the moment, so I think there's definitely something in him there, but it's the consistency he's played for us, I think, 3 times so far, and obviously he's had 2 bad performances and 1 good. So at the moment, it's weighing more on the other side. So I just need to see a bit more consistency. Unlike where Duncan says, nearly called him Rowan. Then that's what I call him in our private chat. I think he just needs to get fitter in there. But again, if he doesn't improve, and he's still getting picked over Walters, I completely agree with Duncan that we're playing with fire. From that perspective.
So we kind of touched on Harry Newman starting the game, Duncan, and he played the first half. As the game developed, did you feel we needed to see more of Harry, or do you like the fact that Rowan, the conditioning team, the club, are really kind of taking it step by step in terms of his rehab and in terms of him coming back into the side? But in that game on Thursday, did you feel we could have perhaps thrown him on for an extra 10, an extra burst, or did you not want to push the luck? How did you read it?
Well, we tried that, didn't we, when he came back under Agar at Wakefield? And we have a tendency. I know it's something that you and Reese talk a lot about on the pod. We don't look after. say we don't look after is probably harsh, but I think this year under Rowan, like you look at Morgan Gannon, he's had another head knock, and we've not seen him since the head knock. So they're obviously taking it seriously and getting him right. And I think with Harry, it's exactly the same. And the easiest thing is to say after the game, well, why didn't Newman play more minutes? But if he played 60 minutes and tore his hamstring, but you got 2 points against Cass, what's the point?
Newman's the prized asset. Newman is Leeds Rhinos' prized asset. He is the best player at the moment.
He's the prized asset of the whole league.
Yeah, and
playing the game.
They've got to protect the long term. I completely agreed with the fact that if they said and the condition said 40 minutes is right, then I agree, regardless of the score, that he did 40 minutes. But as Alistair said, I'd much rather him come on in the second half. I'd much rather us start Reece Martin in the centres, and having maybe Gannon back in the second row with McDonnell or Bentley with McDonnell and just do some switching around there. But I would have much rather Newman been in the second half than the first. But
I think they probably would have done. I know we're going to go on to he who shall not be named a bit later, but they probably would have done had they had another 9 on the bench. I think that sort of threw a bit of. They've probably planned to do that, but then it's thrown a bit of a spanner in the works. But I agree. I think in a local derby against Castleford, probably throwing Louis Roberts. He's had a really good pre-season, and I think he's going to be a very good player. But you could see as soon as it came on, it gave them a lift, and they felt that they had an alley to a channel to attack down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Lewis Roberts had a bad game, but he's a young player, isn't he? That's still learning.
Yeah.
I didn't think he played badly at all, did Lewis? But I wondered if Fussy Tua was a bit more worried because on the try he stepped in. I don't know if he felt like he needed to protect Roberts or if it was just a stupid decision from him. But as Ginny is saying, like putting him on in the second half would have created a bigger impact, and I think that's what we missed in general. We didn't have anyone that came off that bench or anyone that got anyone on the 17 actually that got a hold of that game and got everyone by the scruff of the neck and saying, right, this is what we need to do. Let's sort it out. No one came on to do that. I mean, and I know you're probably not going to like me. Both of you are not going to like me for what I'm about to say, but that was a Brad Dwyer game. That you said, Eddie, last year that there were certain games that just suit Brad Dwyer.
Just let that hang. Just let that hang.
I'm going to let it hang.
Like the bad fight.
You said last year there are certain games that suit Brad Dwyer.
You genuinely just said that.
Well, but where else were we going to get an impact from in that second half?
Well,
that was someone's going to come on and change the game.
There's loads of people been tweeting about it, and in that god awful Facebook group saying about how Brad Dwyer, we shouldn't have let him go. Did no one see him against Saints the night after? He literally cost them 2 points.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. I'm not saying I believe
the guy has got hands like cow tits and he can't pass.
I'm not saying he's the beat or end all, but I just felt that we lacked someone, any player, whether they came on the bench or whether they're on the pitch, that said, or just took control of it and tried to change things. In reality, what
was
should be Caesar or Austin. Smith tried it, and then maybe this is part of the reason why not having a permanent captain doesn't help, because normally it'd be a leader that does it. And I thought Cam tried to do that for his playing style. I mean, I'm going to filter into the stat for a second because it felt a bit like deja vu because Caesar only made 15 metres from 6 carries.
I actually think we thought we were just going to win. I genuinely believe that. All Andy Lass did with Cass was get them up for a game, and it was too much for us. They didn't do anything.
That. It's Cass. We should know that they'll be up for it.
They didn't do anything out of the ordinary. They never do. It's Cass. But when you go to Cass, your pack need to earn the right to chuck the ball wide, and we didn't do that. It's a small pitch. It's a tight pitch. You need to just run up the middle at them.
And that's where that's where Miner's try came from. Yeah. Smith took the ball and ran up the middle.
But we were just it was a bit aimless second half of the attack. It was
deja vu again from the whole game.
It was gutless, if I'm honest. I felt we tried to play like we were we were the better team. Now, on paper, we probably are, but we've got a lot of inconsistencies, and that game was to take us, 3 wins from 5 games. You are where you are. We're only 2 points above Cass. And I think the reason we play like that is because we've just got inconsistent performers all the way across running through the team. Myler can be brilliant one week, like when the sun comes out, Myler will be fantastic. And when you're on the front foot, he's fantastic. But when you're defending, he's dreadful. Caesar and Austin, they'll have a game like they've just had a couple of games against Saints and Wakefield where they've been better. And then I actually think it's more Caesar than Austin. I thought Austin was all right. I don't think he was brilliant, but I think if we'd have had someone next to him that could control the game, we win that game. What was it at half time? We were winning 8-6 at half time, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I felt like in the second half, if we'd have come out and Smith had said, right, just go out and just look to complete your sets and kick into the corners on the 5th tackle, we'd grind them down, but we weren't prepared to grind the game.
Conceding 10 penalties didn't help.
Yeah. But it felt like we just were going to come out. We were 8-6 up, and it felt like they thought they were going to just come out, 3 quick tries, put them to bed, beat them by 20 points. And then you could see the panic growing the deeper it got into the game, and that wasn't happening.
Do you want to say something?
I can't believe that Aidan Caesar. I know. You've just been fascinated listening. I can't believe that Aidan Caesar, like Duncan said, had 2 back-to-back games where, what did he average, Reece? 60, 70 metres?
Yeah, that's what we said. Games. I mean, Austin got...
spot. Yeah.
Yeah, Austin got 72, just to compare.
And then, so we kind of wax lyrical. Cameron comes on the pod and says, there's that sweet spot between 60 and 80 where a halfback tends to need to be to kind of influence the game. Caesar has 2 games where he's in that sweet spot in terms of meters. And I know meters and stats don't tell the whole story, but it can't be a coincidence that he goes from those type of readings in the stats, has 2 great games, and follows it up with 15 meters against Cass. What I don't understand is how does that happen? How can he kind of come out, say, right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to run the team. I'm going to influence the games. And then he does it twice. And everyone says, people on Sky saying he's played well. Us coming on here saying, wow, what a massive difference after kind of chopping him up in first 2 games, 2 rounds. How does that happen? That he falls back into that. And to me, it's such a basic thing. I'd be thinking I have to play like I did the previous 2 weeks. Does that make sense?
Just to support your theory there. So in the 2 games that we've won, he's made 74 meters and 58. In the games that we've lost, he's got 8, 4, and 15. So what you're talking about is exactly, it supports your theory.
This because Cam says it. I'm going to talk about Cam again, but Cam says, he does when people kind of discount the game Caesar can play. He does have that running game. He's an intelligent player, but it's just getting frustrating that he did it 2 weeks on the trot, and we're kind of like, that's all we ask. That type of play is all we're asking, but then he completely falls off back to where he was. It doesn't make, maybe it's just me, but it doesn't make sense that he does it for 2 games and then completely falls off. But you'd think he'd try to run it more and try to, I don't know, perhaps I'm thinking too much into it, but what have you made of him, Duncan, in that kind of inconsistency? I suppose it's similar to what you mentioned about Myler.
Yeah, I think his drop off from his best game to his worst is like an 8 or a 9 out of 10 to like a 2 or 3 out of 10.
That's right.
Whereas like you think like the really good halfbacks across the league, the really good halfbacks are the ones that can go at like a 7 out of 10, and in the key moments can step up and provide a good kick on the fifth tackle, maybe beat a defender when running the ball, or a decent pass to put an outside back into space. When Caesar, you can almost sense that he's going to have a bad game after the first 20. He's got that horrible thing that I know annoys me and you, which is his petulance. And you see the petulant side of him come out when he's having a poor game. It's like it's everyone else's fault but his. And I feel he's just, for me, there's non-negotiables when you're putting on a Leeds shirt, and the main one's effort. That's just what you do. And he's not for me, Caesar. There's people, I know Cameron comes on and he defends him, and he does talk a lot more sense than I do, probably, but
more than us all, to be honest.
It is his job. Let's just put that out there.
But for me. But the issue is there's no one behind him. There's no one behind him. Like there's loads of people talking. Oh, let's bring in Jack Simfield. No. At Headingley, Saturday afternoon against Catalan, against the big pack. It's going to be raining. It's going to be wet. It's going to be an horrible game. That is the wrong game to chuck Jack Simfield into. You're paying someone potentially big money, and he's on a quota spot. He's got to earn his money. He's the one that needs to stand up, not a 19-year-old, 20-year-old kid. It needs to be these guys that. You what, sorry?
I think he's 18, is Jack.
Oh, is he 18?
Yeah.
For me, it's Caesar's inconsistency, but it doesn't help as well. Austin's inconsistent. There's not a consistent performer amongst the halfbacks. But
they're very consistent in being inconsistent.
Yeah, but even in the games that we win, I never really think that like Caesar drags us around the field. He doesn't. I don't think he's like. There were games where, like 2017 grand final against Cass, Maguire won us that game. Maguire walked out onto that field and said, "We are not losing this game," and he dragged the team around, put them in the right position, and we won the game. I don't think Caesar's got that type of performance in him, even when he plays at his best.
That's very unfair. That's a very, very unfair comparison, Duncan. You are comparing someone to a god.
He has to be mentioned on every podcast, though, doesn't he? So
yeah, he does. It would just be like Aidan Caesar, because we've done this, haven't we, Reese? We've spoken about him and how inconsistent he is. Would it not just be the perfect Aidan Caesar game, Catalan, to play really well, and we come back, and on the Catalan review we say, "Oh, welcome back, Aidan."
Yeah, no, it probably will happen. To be fair, maybe the same about Alfords. Maybe Alfords, but actually, no, that's
Alfords.
Yeah, that will happen. Well, can I do stats, or do you want to do Alfords?
Go for stats first.
Go for stats first, right? I've just put the tweet out actually now, and me and you will always say the stats don't tell the full story, but they often support or disprove observations. Part of me is a bit confused with the stats this week, and the main thing is that is actually the lowest amount of tackles we've had to make so far this season.
Wow.
Which is 275. It was also the lowest amount of tackles we've missed in a season. So in a game so far this season. So we only missed 15 tackles, which from memory didn't quite feel like a fair reflection. We had 35 tackle busts on the night. And my segue into Alfords was that he actually had 7 of those. He led the way with 7. We got 1,161 meters. Cameron Smith led the way with 151, followed up by McDonald, 139, Alfords, 107, and Fussy, 104. Just going back to what Duncan said, that's 4 games in a row. Fussy's now made over 100 meters as well.
Yeah.
But the more disappointing stat, one more positive stat. we did, of those tackles, despite the fact it was the lowest, Jared O'Connor made 20% of all tackles for the Rhinos on Thursday night.
Wow.
So he
That's absolutely remarkable.
had 57. Smith
Jeez.
had 44. So in fact, if I just put that effort into perspective, so between them, they did 101 tackles of the 275. So between them, they were responsible for 37% of all tackles, just Smith and O'Connor.
That is absolutely remarkable. And I'm not sure, I'll ask Duncan in a minute, but I'm not sure if that says more about those two players and their commitment or about the team. How do you read those stats, Duncan? 37% of tackles made by Jared O'Connor and Cam Smith.
I think it's. I genuinely think it'd be unfair to say it's the team. I think some players have different attributes, and I know like there'll be people probably out there that think, oh, we need to, you know, Lehman potentially leaving. We need to sign a 9. We need to sign a 9. Jared's incredibly underrated. Still, he is capable of doing 80 minutes. He's been playing the position for probably 2 seasons, 2.5 seasons. Played halfback coming through in junior rugby, then played in the academy. He was like switching between 13 and 9. But he's not, he didn't really have a position. We were trying him in the second row. We were trying him in the back row at 13. Then he's settled in at 9. He's doing a bloody good job. And it's the same with Cam Smith. For me, it shows that we've got leaders in that team that you would expect senior players to be stepping up around these youngsters.
I would put Cameron Smith in his senior player category, surely. I know he's younger than the others, but the time that he's been in the squad, I would put Cameron Smith in his senior. I wouldn't put Jared there because he's obviously still new into it. I'd put Cam Smith in that senior group, surely.
I wouldn't.
Would you not?
No. How old's Cam? Mid-20s?
24, yeah. I think.
Always, every time I Google Cameron Smith, it always comes up with the golfer first, and then it's just
the golfer.
How dare he? Because that's not even the best Cameron Smith that exists. He's 24.
Yeah, you see, so he's got what? Another 10 years, give or take. So I get what you're saying. Look, there's people that stand out as leaders, and Cam has been a leader in the junior sides in the academy, and then the same in England age groups. He's been a leader in those sides as well. I just feel at the minute our senior players are probably the poorest bunch of senior players that we've had in a long time. Like, if you look through the spine, it's Jared and Cam that are going to be the solid performers throughout. You know what you're going to get from them week after week after week. But you don't know what you're going to get from Miley. You don't know what you're going to get from Austin. You don't know what you're going to get from Caesar.
I'm not surprised at that start, by the way, that putting them two together, the most tackles, is probably, I mean, I'd have to look at the other rounds to see how similar that is, but it's always them two and Bentley that are in the top 3 week in, week out. You can almost just predict it each week. The other 2 stats we didn't discuss was errors. We made 17 errors of the night. No, hang on. Was that many? No, we had 14 errors, but 9 players of the 17 made at least 1 error. So over 50% of the team made at least 1 error. And then of the 10 penalties conceded on the night, which was the most for the season, Blake Austin was responsible for 4 of them. One of them was for what Eddie's biggest pet hate is talking back. And he's done that in 2 weeks in a row now.
Petulance, yeah. About to say that's second week in a row, Blake. Give it a rest.
Yeah.
I know it drives Duncan mad as well. It genuinely does. As a Leeds fan, seeing Leeds players do it, I can't stand it. You know, I'll come on here and I've called loads and loads of opposition players petulant and all sorts. That rings, I feel exactly the same when it's a Leeds player. That does not change. I cannot stand it. Referee's decision. He's in charge. Get on with it.
I thought he had a good game as well, referee, to be fair.
Yeah,
he did all right, actually. Is petulance
Did well.
a suitable segue? Tangent?
Yeah.
Can you just
Tangent,
answer? Sorry, I just wanted to know what was Tetevano's meters?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
No, that's not going off in a tangent. Sorry, I thought
It's the wrong tangent, but it's 66 off 8 carries.
Yeah, all right. Sorry, I'll just ruin your. I'll ruin your.
No, it's all right. I was just waiting for what came after. But yeah, go on. We'll go back to the petulance tangent if that's the right one.
Go for it.
I thought you were going to go for it. Are we closing off
Oh,
the match review?
I thought you were. Oh, someone has to go for it.
No, we're just man of the match.
No, not yet. I quickly
Which one we going
want
for?
to talk
go on
about
then.
Daryl Alford.
Oh,
because-
right. Sorry. I've peeked then.
This is how I feel. If Daryl Alford, he obviously bombed that try. I think it was about 74th, 75th minute. And he bombed. It was a tap-in. And he completely bombed it. Now, for me, if he scores that, we go on to win that game. Do you agree, Reese?
Yeah, because it goes into golden point probably at that point. And
Yeah.
I think just a lift in a team. And I think it's unfair to put it on that moment because the whole team did not deliver, other than probably your O'Connors and your Smiths. I think the whole team didn't deliver. But it's easy to blame Alford's in that moment. And there's not a real reasonable excuse for not finishing that. To be a professional rugby league winger, a guy that scored 16, 17 tries last year, that should be your bread and butter. He didn't have a very good night.
Duncan, do you agree? If he scores that, we go to win?
Maybe.
I love Duncan can do 20-minute gospel speeches. And then into the next question, I'll go...
Jared O'Connor. On the potential of Jared O'Connor. You're telling Dave Amano's meters and he goes, all right. Ask him if we won the game. Maybe. Ask him about a player's potential. It gives you 15 minutes. That's what we love about him. Right, man of the match, boys. Oh, God. We're all
forward. When he carries forward, he actually carries well. But he chose to run sideways, again, on our own line. Just run forward. He's got it in him. And he made 7 tackle busts, but I don't know if they're just because he's running across the line. But when he ran forward, he actually looked all right. But here's a kind of just mentioned it.
Man of the match?
It's Cameron Smith.
Anyone?
Cam Smith.
Cameron Smith.
Cam Smith for me as well. Cam Smith, the Lock Pod man of the match. So that's the match review done. We did well there, 38 minutes. Just as the team news broke, we got some quite shocking news, which kind of proves that nobody is really in the know, because this really did come out of the blue. We got the news that it was a bit of a wow moment, really. We got some news that Cruz Leeming has been granted a release, confirmed by Rowan Smith after the game, but the news kind of broke. He wasn't in the team, and it had hit Twitter and social media that he told Leeds he wants to leave. Just as an initial instant reaction, Reese, how did you feel upon seeing that news that Leeming has asked for a release and is going to be leaving Leeds?
I was very surprised. I certainly feel like it came out of the blue. So my initial reaction was surprised, to be honest. My view now is a bit more elongated, but I'll let Duncan say what his initial reaction was first.
What was your initial reaction to the news, Duncan?
Anyone that asks for a release from Leeds, I can't swear, can do one. Don't care. Get rid of him. See you later.
I mean,
so that's our initial reaction. Carry on, Reece. Go on.
Yeah, so that's the initial reaction, and that's why I mentioned earlier about the petulant angle, because the article in the Yorkshire Evening Post today with Gary Hetherington seems to indicate that he wasn't happy. He wasn't starting, and Jared was getting picked ahead of him. So it feels a bit like you've just spat your dummy out. And now, obviously, we haven't heard Cruz's side of the story. So, but at the moment, the noise sounds like it's more that he's not been happy. He's not been picked. He's unhappy that Jared's been picked ahead of him.
Play better, and he'll get picked.
And what the other thing is, like, this kind of now makes more sense on the captain thing as well to me. Now, putting this and that together, the whole captain scenario is starting. It feels like it's made a bit more sense now. But if he's leaving, he doesn't. He goes on our terms, as Andrew in the comments rightly says. If he wants to leave, but if we agree to, which we have, he goes on our terms. There's no way that. I think we should be getting a little bit of a fee for him. He's got another year left in his contract. He's a England international, or could be, or should be. He goes on our terms. Even if he goes on our terms. Even if he doesn't train,
he's not better than Andy Ackers. He's not better than Darryl Clark, and he's probably an argument out there that he's not better than Paul McShane.
Well, he won't be getting any rugby at the moment. He won't be getting any rugby at the moment, will he?
Well, that's the question now. If he is leaving, if Leeming is leaving, Duncan, who's going to take him? I mean, there was a very small flash in the pan rumour that it was the NRL, but is an NRL?
He ain't good enough for that, is it?
Yeah,
he ain't good enough. He ain't good enough for the NRL. Not a chance. Now it strikes me. I was gonna come in when Reece was talking then, but I thought no, I don't want to interrupt. His agent's got his head turned somewhere. He's thrown his toy, his rattle out of the pram. He's gone, I'm not getting picked. I'm not captain. I want to be starting, blah, blah, blah. Play better. Be the first name on the team sheet, and then, you'll get picked. Play like you are doing, be inconsistent, petulant, not great, absolutely, he's a turnstile in defence. You're not going to get picked. So, stop moaning, get on with it. He's obviously wanted to moan about it. And Rowan said, his agent's come in and obviously said something to Gary. And as soon as you start quoting money and stuff around at Everington, it's see you later. There's only one winner, and he'll just tell you to go down the road. Which, to me, I won't put him back in a Leeds shirt, even if no one won't have him.
He can't play now. He won't play. You won't ever see him in the Leeds shirt again.
No. Even if he came back round and said, I don't want to leave anymore. Well, you didn't say that a couple of weeks ago. See you later. He might get a gig in NRL. He might go on and prove me wrong and be a world beater. But I just don't. I don't see it. I think he's better at 7 than he is at 9. But I only think he's better at 7 because we've got an awful 7.
Do you know where I think he will end up?
Where?
Wigan.
Not a chance. He'll play at Wigan. Nah. He's got more chance. Do you know what? I think he's got more chance of playing at St Helens.
I've got written down here Wigan or Saints for me. I think one of those two will take him.
He won't go to Wigan because he can't defend. And they're all about wrestling and holding and being dirty. And I don't think he's got that in him. Look at Sam Powell, he's a grub. I don't think Leeming doesn't strike me as a Wigan hooker, whereas somewhere like, I'm trying to think it.
Wakefield?
Well, he obviously thinks he's better than that if it's quoting around in the NRL, doesn't he? Maybe Catalan? Mickey Max, Mickey Max got to be 55 now, so...
Yeah, he is. He had his 55th earlier this week.
There is a little bit that annoys me. If you take away the fact he's requested to go, yeah, I know he's weak in defence and he does regularly miss the tackles. But when he was at his best in that season, when he got in the Man of Steel, he was a bloody good player, and he is a good player. When he's in his prime and he does and he's confident, he's happy, or whatever words you want to say, he was and is and can be a very, very good player. So if you take away the request side of things, I do think we are losing a skill set here. But as Duncan said, Jared can be an 80-minute hooker. It sounds like Rowan wants his nines to be distributors as opposed to the running nines, and he thinks his halves should be doing the running. So there's an argument even to say that Leaming doesn't even fit that style. I know we've got Corey Johnson coming up as well. I'm a bit worried about the depth, but just let Jared do 80 minutes. He can do it.
I want to see Johnson play in a couple of games now. I don't know whether he's good enough, but he was class coming through the academy, and I think he deserves a shot with the first team. Even if that's just to spell Jared for 10 or 15 minutes, because ultimately the signing, if they go to replace Leaming with a hooker, what sort of hooker do you go for? To me, Jared's a 9, and you're looking for someone to fill the void if Jared's injured or, they want to do a bit of rotation there. But they're going to have to be smart with how much money they throw at it, because I don't think it warrants a big investment. You probably want to save a bit of that cap room from Leaming and put it in elsewhere around the team.
I think in terms of a new signing, there's a lot of work to do to get that to happen. Because obviously the season started now, like Duncan said, and then who can that be? That with no quarter spots, so that locks up the majority of potential rumours. It'd have to be something similar to when we got rid of Matty Parcel and Rob Louis and shifted a couple in and did a bit like changing through the cap that way. I guess my biggest question is, do we need to make a signing, Reese? I think Cruz is a good player. I think it adds a lot. And perhaps, I can't remember, I do apologise, but someone said in the comments that when Reese mentioned Brad Dwyer, someone in the comments on our YouTube live chat said that could have been Cruz Leaming. He could have come on and made that impact. But do you think it's going to be a loss, Reese? Do you think we're losing a good player here?
As I said, you take away the petulance and the demanding to leave sort of thing. I think we are losing a good player.
So if we are losing a good player, we need to make a signing?
But I'm kind of talking myself out of it at the moment, and Duncan's kind of helping me do this with the 80-minute hooker thing, and Jared. But my only concern again is that no one changed and got hold of the game on Thursday night, and that's sometimes what changing your hooker can do. But I think we've got the quality in the pitch and players to be able to take control of games when they need to. We just haven't seen it consistently enough. So my argument probably is no. Because you've got Corey Johnson, and then I think part of that is we need to see what Corey Johnson's like. Now, if Corey Johnson plays 2-3 games and it's dreadful, then we're going to have to look at something. But Duncan probably knows more than me, but Corey's been talked up for quite a long time.
Yeah,
Jared can do 80 minutes, and in fact, you look at him defensively. I mean, just going back to his stats, obviously he made 57 tackles. He missed one. So out of his 58 tackle attempts, he missed one tackle. So, to have someone that strong in the middle controlling that defence for 80 minutes, I think is key. So do we need to replace Leaming when he goes? I'm more on the argument at the moment not to.
Sign an half-back is what I'd do.
I did see someone say Myler can play hooker, and I was like, no, we're not doing that again.
Finish with that. So would you be happy, Duncan, if we finished the year with Jared, Corey, and possibly James Bentley playing hooker?
Not with James Bentley, but I'd use the other two. But then again, it's like Reece said, I think we've got to see what Corey's like. If he comes in and he's poor for a run of games, but the key is he needs a run of games. You can't just put someone in for one game and then judge them on one game. It needs to be that they have a run. Now, my patience would be more with the likes of Corey Johnson, than it would be with a Sam Lasoni, because the money on the cap is completely different. Sam Lasoni should be ready to play, coming in, be ready to hit the ground running, not a fat, overweight guy that probably won't get in an NCL side. So I think they've got to see what Corey Johnson's like. Otherwise, it's a waste of time having him in the squad. It's got a complete waste of time because he's just filling a position that someone else could have.
Yeah. That's the Cruz Leeming debate finished. I just think, as I said before we kind of came on, I want to bite my tongue. I don't want to, because I feel like I'd start
question back then.
Swearing.
My question back, and you can still bite your tongue to this, but do you think that the news of that being announced an hour before kickoff affected the team before we played?
No, because I think any club, especially ours, is bigger than fucking Cruz Leeming. And I would hate
to think I agree
that we
with
are
you.
so fragile. We are so fragile that Cruz says, I've gone now, Reese, well done. That Cruz says, am I not playing? Are you not picking me? Well, I'm going then. Go then.
But
just go.
I'm assuming they wouldn't have known. They would have known probably when the team was announced, or but that getting announced an hour before kickoff, or and for us, but obviously for them in the build up to that game, is that just a distraction?
Well, it's got to have happened. It's got to have happened in the build up to the game. It's got to have done in the week, in whether it be the Tuesday or the Wednesday, because I put that team in the group chat.
You did.
And there was one player missing from that team. So if they've practiced all week and come up with tactics about what they're going to do, when they're going to do it, who's going to go where, suddenly if you take an important cog out of that team, I think it more revolves around what they were going to do with Newman and who was going to play there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Rather than it being a case of Lehman being on the bench, I think they've had to do a little shuffle and react to what they're going to do with Newman. They were always going to play him for 40 minutes, but it's who was going to play in the centre.
I'm of the opinion that did affect us.
Yeah. I am as well, Reece. I agree.
But excuse the fact that we lost.
No.
Yeah. I think the fact that Gary Hetherington came out today in the Evening Post and said Leeming didn't get selected, which he said something along the lines of Leeming wasn't selected for the squad, which prompted this response in that he's responded in to say, right, I'm leaving the club then. So Gary Hetherington has said that, so that's factual. So that is the story. That's the story until Cruz tells us otherwise. Now, there's two sides to every story, but until this develops more, all we can read it as fans, as anyone reacting to this, is that Cruz Leeming, like Duncan said earlier, has thrown his toys out the pram. And if that's the case, it doesn't sound great, and it's someone who, I think, Rick, where you both said it, we will never see this guy play for Leeds again, regardless of what. Like Duncan said, however this develops, he will never, ever play for Leeds again. And this is something that I always say as well. A mark of a player, for me, is what happens after Leeds. Where do they go from us? And I don't see Cruz playing for a bigger club than Leeds. I know one doesn't exist, but I don't think he's going to play and win something. I think it's going to be... It might even go back to Huddersfield, so I don't know. Is anyone else bored of talking about him now?
Yeah.
Let's move on. Catalan's next. Live on Channel 4. In terms of the squad, Duncan, going into this one, how would you like to see us line up? Any squad changes? Anyone coming in? Anyone dropped?
Well, Lasoni at Bradford. Walters on the bench. Don't use Bentley at hooker. I'd actually probably I'd be tempted to give McDonnell a rest. Not because I don't think he's been. When I mean a rest, I mean he drops down to the bench and Bentley starts.
Yeah.
I think, especially with their big pack, I think we need defenders that are going to be able to get on top of them. Now McDonnell is good in defence. He's not let us down at all. I don't think he let us down against Cass. He was very good against Saints. You know, I think we need to. I think you could swap them around. Have a back row of Bentley, Martin, Smith. Newman will probably play somewhere between an hour and 80 minutes. Maybe give bring McDonnell on, move Martin into the centre. And then
lots of options, isn't there?
Sangare and Walters have been my props on the bench. And then what I would like is I'd like to see Corey Johnson be able to spell Jared for a breather. For me, it'd probably be either side of half time. So Jared probably does, or maybe Jared does 50 minutes and then he gets a 10-minute breather and does the last 20. But I'd look to integrate Corey Johnson in the team just because I think we need to see what he can do. But other than that, I can't. He said Ash Hanley was weak, didn't he? And he's only missed 1 week, so I can't see Hanley coming back. So we'll have to put up with Alforts again on the wing. Other than the back row, I can't see many changes. I think the changes will come around the bench.
Reese?
So my initial thought when you said not drop, well, you are dropping McDonnell, but not for the reasons that would say you've been dropped. I feel that being incredibly harsh on McDonnell because I think he's been absolutely brilliant. Quietly, does his job, doesn't look out of place. In the last 2 games, he's seen more creative ability. He's quite short, isn't he? But he's really strong as well. Like he makes tackle busts and breaks and stuff. So it'd be a shame to drop him. But for Catalan, I think you're completely right. The quarterfinal last year in the playoffs, Bentley had the whole of the Catalan team wrapped around his little finger.
He did.
Arguably Bentley's, arguably one of Bentley's best performance. So I think Bentley's important for the game. And so I think you're right. I think Bentley has to start. We've got Gannon coming back, and I don't know where Gannon fits in with all this. Because could you have a bench of Sangare, Walters, McDonnell, Walters? That maybe feels a bit too heavy. I don't know. But I think my main one, I think you're right. I think Bentley needs to move in. I want to drop Alforts, but I'm not really sure what we've got. I mean, Liam Tyndall.
I don't think you can play Tyndall against Catalan.
No, I don't think you can either. So
you did last year.
I don't think there's much changes really that's going to happen. I think the main change will be Bentley coming in, and actually, I just think that's it. And I think I would go for the 2. I'd go Sangare, Walters, McDonnell, Gannon on the bench.
Predictions for this one, Duncan?
Well, what's Caesar gone so far? He's gone rubbish, good, rubbish.
No, rubbish, good, rubbish.
Rubbish. It comes in 2s with him, so he's due a good game.
So he's going to have another rubbish game.
No, it's due a good... Oh, no, yeah.
No, it's due a rubbish one.
It's due a rubbish one.
I'll say Leeds by 6.
Good man. Reese?
It sounds like it's all playing into Catalan's hand, isn't it? With it being a wet, miserable day. So I'm bringing 2 friends that have never been to a rugby league game before on Saturday, so it sounds like they're going to be in for an absolute cracker. I think I put Catalan in my prediction not to make the I think I put Catalan in my predictions to finish bottom half of the table, and they're unbeaten so far. So I'm not sure my predictions are going to be ever that good, but I think it'll be a tight one. I think Leeds by 2.
Leeds are going to win by 34 points on Saturday. Harry Newman's going to score 2. And I think James Bentley's going to score 2 as well. Duncan, thank you as always. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Yep, you're welcome as always. Reese, as always, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We will be back to review the Catalans game. See you next time. Until then, take care.